am Julie Myers with SmarterServices. I'm a senior solutions consultant. I have been here for a long time. Been in our head even longer, but super excited to share with you what we hope are really valuable resources. And also maybe even we hope that you guys will share some of the things that we don't cover today because your colleagues are on the phone, right? And we would love to have you share your ideas with them as well. So precision and proctoring, we're getting a blueprint ready for you today. So I'll pause, Carol.
Sure. Just want to, if you want to give me the next slide.
Yeah, I just wanted you to be able to introduce yourself as
Oh, sorry. I'm
Okay.
Carol. I've been with SmarterServices like Julie, going on my 8th or 9th year, I think, and just happy to talk to you guys about testing and how Smarter Proctoring, it really can help your testing center and benefit you in some other ways as well, even if you don't use Smarter Proctoring.
For sure, yeah. Just a little bit about us. Some people know us as Smarter Measures. Some people know us as Smarter Proctoring, but the name of our company is SmarterServices. So this is just a little bit about us at a glance. Like Carol said, she's been here, 8, 9, 10 years. I've been here 18, 19 years. So we have a lot of history with this company and have seen a lot of things come and go and grow. And so we're just super excited to be in the position we are in today. We were established, as you can see. I don't want to read the slides to you. I know we've worked with more than 1,200 institutions, but we do service the entire U.S. We do have some international clients in Canada, and Carol and I have different territories, but we, in many ways, have had our hands and feet in a lot of these sales and the prospecting and the new client deals for many years. So we do provide a smarter proctoring. We're primarily going to be focusing on your testing center today, talking to you about some ideas, sharing with you how we can help you with some of those struggles or challenges. But we also provide Smarter Measure. And I don't know, I would love to see a show of virtual hands. If you feel comfortable raising your hand and saying, I know what that is. I'm curious because some of you have, I see you, Steve Clark, if you know what Smarter Measure is. It's basically a readiness assessment. And we have recently just hit the 7+ million mark of students who've been assessed. And that's just assessing their challenges and their opportunities. So when they go or their strengths, and when they go into an online environment or a hybrid environment, they will be able to be successful and have the proactive resources they need. So, again, I mentioned at the very beginning, I want us to share with each other and learn from each other. It's not like everybody's going to talk at once. Carol and I have some content planned for you, but we will be sending recording, and we have some linked follow-up resources. Not everything is linked in the presentation right now, but by the time you get the deck and the recording, it will be. So you don't have to open up separate documents. We'll try to get everything linked in there. We hope that although this is not completely exhaustive list, it will get you started. So we have 2 different options. I think, well, let me make sure the chat is on. So we've got the Q&A. Okay, we don't have the chat. Okay. We've got the Q&A. And so what's going to happen is, as we're going different sections, hey, we're going to talk about how to be more efficient. Hey, we're going to talk about new technologies. We're going to talk about maximizing your profits, okay? Then if you have an idea, something that you're using in your testing center right now that's working, or maybe some other testing center you know of that we aren't talking about or we don't mention, because obviously we can't include everything, please just type it in the Q&A, because we want to compile that so we are then able to share those resources with you. Well, so-and-so uses this technology, or so-and-so found this to be free, and they were paying for something, but they found a free version. So that's really what we would love for you guys to share. And then again, the Q&A, if you have questions as things come up, I'm going to be monitoring that, and Carol will too. So if there's a question that's kind of time sensitive in the moment, we will pause and address it right away if it's applicable to the group. If it's more specific or something that could be wait till the end, we'll do that. So this is our outline. And again, we don't like to read slides to you, but this is really the groundwork, and this is going to be the blueprint from start to finish. The first thing is, where do we start? And we're going to go through some different things that we believe are going to be of value to you. And then, again, want your input along the way. And we decided to do this thing called Work the Webinar, or Open Your Own Design Studio. We've never done that before. So, you have a webinar and you get some concrete resources, but then at the end of it, do you have to review the entire deck in order to get the bullet points? No, we're going to challenge you and give you one screen with some very practical things that you can do today in your testing center with your staff at no to little budget cost at all in order to improve everything. So I'm going to pause and turn it over to my colleague, Carol, and she's going to take the next couple of slides. Carol?
Yeah, it's really been amazing to have been in testing and assessment these last several years, as we still are in kind of that post-COVID environment. A study that's done every year to distance education leaders is called the Chloe Survey. And the acronym is for, as you can see, changing landscape of online education. And I just thought to kind of set the stage for our conversation today. This study has just been released, and I've got a link to it at the bottom if you want to dig deeper, but kind of what some trends are related to online learning, and also assessment is mentioned in here as well. So basically, in a nutshell, basically what this slide reveals is that there's really been a growth in hybrid and demand for those blended type learning environments where, a course may be in person 2 days a week and remote the rest of the time. Also too, the need for online learning has basically now, it's not something that's done as an emergency. Institutions are putting online learning and expanding those programs as a strategic priority. There's growth now in different types of courses. I've been talking a lot to graduate programs lately in the past couple of weeks. So again, online learning is out there growing for everybody. Julie, are you putting a box in front of the slide, or is that me? Okay, there we go. And then engagement and retention is really important for online learners. And I think that point really comes to bear today. You'll see engagement, retention, and flexibility and support. Since the online space is becoming more crowded, programs are really interested in making their online program student focused. They want their students to feel supported. They want their students to have options and support. And also too, that last bullet about online proctoring, it's really becoming more sophisticated. Institutions really know now the importance of academic integrity in online environments. And we don't really see a lot of institutions making their online proctoring or their remote proctoring less rigorous. A lot of institutions are really trying to be on the forefront of protecting academic integrity at their institutions. And again, the growth is there, right? Online's not going away. And that's one thing that the survey is showing us. And again, that link will be in the slide deck if you want to dig a little deeper with your teams.
This really is a great report, and it just talks about, growing. It just so happens that 2 of our client schools, they have 30% enrollment projected for this fall increase. That's been unheard of for the last several years. So it's not going anywhere for sure. So that's super exciting.
Another resource that we want to mention too is many of you may be familiar with OLC, which is the Online Learning Consortium, and they have some scorecards that you can use to grade your online program. And as we set the stage today for talking about testing centers and remote proctoring and academic integrity, they give you really 3 categories where you can rank your institution. You can't see it, but on the far right is kind of the lowest level of support that they recommend offering a student in an online program. And then the far right in each of those categories is really what they call exemplary support. So what they consider exemplary support for a student in an online program is the institution offering students access to academic proctoring. And it says that proctoring should be available for all types of students, both traditional and online. And I know a lot of you trust brick and mortar students in your testing center, not just remote students, right? But they feel like the best level of service is when students have a choice between online proctoring, coming to a campus, or choosing an approved third-party location. And all that makes sense, right? Many students, because of their schedules, need to be proctored from home. Other students may have technology challenges and want to come to campus, or may just have anxiety about remote proctoring. And then a third-party physical location, maybe a public library, may be the closest or most convenient. So OLC feels like those options are the best way to support your online students. Also, too, it's always good for us, we think, to keep abreast of what's happening out there when it comes to legislation. Many of you may have been aware of a lawsuit that happened very early during COVID. I encourage you after the call to explore that link that I provided. It's a really deep dive. That second link, the caselaw.findlaw.com, is really a deep dive into what happened during that proctoring session that allowed that student to sue Cleveland State. Basically, this judgment just applied to that individual student. So there was no sweeping change across the nation, right, because of this lawsuit. But it just really illustrates how important it is to have proctoring policies that are communicated well and consistent across your institution. If this institution had had those policies and had used a tool that helped them standardize proctoring procedures, many of these problems with this lawsuit could have been avoided. So they say that decision's being appealed, but for my latest searches, I haven't found any updates related to it right now. But I just encourage you to take, if you're interested in what happened, to take a deep dive with that second link. And again, as OLC mentioned, students may push back when they're only given one choice, right? If I could only pay my bill to trash pickup with a stamp, I'm going to push back, right? Because that doesn't meet my needs right now because I do online banking for every other bill that I have. So when we're forced into one option these days, there's going to be pushback. And you'll see that sometimes with students in remote proctoring, right? Many times students don't want to share their home environment. On the opposite turn, they may not have gas or bus money to get to campus. Sometimes students with accommodations really need those special devices. Students may prefer in person because of hardware issues. So we really feel like it's best to your students to keep a testing center, if not yours, maybe another, in an option for students instead of trying to force all different types of learners down one path. So that's where Smarter Proctoring comes in. We help you give students those other options without making it a bigger hassle for your instructors and for your testing teams. We're going to talk in depth about these options, but just see that with Smarter Proctoring, your institution and your academic integrity team can come up with what you feel is acceptable for your courses. And then you can deliver those options very clearly to your students inside the LMS. Make it easy for instructors and easy for your testing teams to provide those options and to give students those choices.
Hey, and I'm going to interject here. Again, I know we don't have the chat, but I would love it if you guys would just type in, again, I won't share it, it's not a poll, type into the Q&A how many different types of proctoring you use at your organization. You don't have to tell us the vendor who you use. That's not it. We're just so curious. You have testing centers, obviously, right? Do you have live virtual proctors that you pay somebody to watch your students? Do you have a lockdown? Do you have automated, with the flagging? So would love to see those pop up in the chat, just kind of for some conversation later.
And so when we talk about the different options in Smarter Proctoring, again, I'm not going to read to you, but AI proctoring is the thing, right? It grew really quickly during the pandemic, but there's some good things and some bad things about AI proctoring. Both of these modalities are popular with students, both automated and record and review, because students don't have to schedule. Some students do not want to have to plan ahead to meet a proctor online, and so they don't like that scheduling. So automated and record and review are really flexible from a student perspective. Automated is very affordable and can still give your program quality monitoring of an assessment, because AI can help you detect if a student's face disappears from the screen, or if there are multiple people inside the proctoring session when there should just be one, if there's speech, if the student is trying to open tabs and do those types of things. That's what AI proctoring can really help you with. It can be great for a mid-stakes exam, and something where cost is, very important and a very big driver as far as a proctoring option that you can choose. We see clients slowly migrate from automated over to record and review. And the reason record and review is probably more popular as far as our clients go every year is it's a big time saver for your instructors. And it gives you the benefit of the skill of an experienced proctor. The same proctors that do our live proctoring are the proctors that record and review sessions. And so we can give you a report about the parts of that session that the faculty member needs to look at. And then we can remove things that AI has indicated that don't compromise the session. It can be in moderate stakes exams. It can even be used in high stakes exam, but it really gives you the benefit of that professional proctor, and it really saves time for instructors. I know many of you have large courses with large course loads, and the amount of time you would need to spend to do all those reviews yourself can be daunting. So record and review can really be a time saver and can help you give you the benefit of the expertise of the professional proctor.
Did the slide advance?
Yes, thank you. And next, I didn't realize it had. And then we've also got two modalities where live proctors are involved. Raise your hand if you feel like a live proctor is the highest level of deterrent. Give me some hand raises if we think a live proctor.
Oh yeah,
All right.
St.
right,
John brought it up quick.
yeah, so we know that live proctoring is the highest level of deterrent. And also, too, the great thing about a live session is that students can be redirected. That's one thing that cannot happen with the session that is done either with automated or with record and review, right? Those sessions have already happened. But in a live session, you've got the ability for the proctor to intervene if a student is going off course. You've got the set of eyes on the student, which is the higher level of deterrent. And it's really perfect for high stakes exams, right? With SmarterServices, we have two different types of live virtual proctoring. We have our own proctors that are available 24/7, 365 for students to schedule and be proctored with. And then also we're going to talk today about our hybrid technology where your institution can provide the proctors and use our software. That can be a really cost beneficial relationship because you're not having to pay SmarterServices for the HR costs of a proctor, right? You're just using our software. So your institution can give that higher level of deterrent, right, with your proctors. And we also find that students respond well to being offered to be proctored by a proctor from their own institution because you guys are the masters of delivering that positive student experience. And they feel supported when they're proctored by their own institution. I have a couple of our hybrid proctors on this call and just know that they do a fabulous job working with students. And students choose them time and again when they're offered that choice in our system.
For sure.
So for the hybrid
Sorry.
experience, for the hybrid experience, you can monitor up to 10 students at a time. This is an example of what a remote proctor is seeing. So this remote proctor has 2 students waiting to onboard, 1 student that's about to start testing, and you'll see over a number 4, the proctor's got some assistive tools available to them. They can communicate with a student with either a call or a chat. They can approve a proctor to approve a student to let them in the exam. And we're even going to remind them what the exam details are so that the proctor doesn't have to remember when they're watching multiple students. And then you will see over in the left, we've got 2 students that are about to come into the session. And again, we wouldn't let student 6 in. We wouldn't let demo student 6 in, of course, until we saw their webcam.
I love the fact that please do not let the student cheat. Y'all know this is just sample stuff, but it's just funny.
Yeah. All right. So during the exam, the student has a toolbar that they can use to communicate with the proctor. They can communicate with our support team. They can see what the proctor sees with that live video button. And they can also move that proctoring menu around on the screen. And then this is an example of a communication tool here where the student is chatting the proctor. This shows that the proctor can focus on a student. So if I need to call Claire, I can put her in focus mode and I can use that microphone there to call her and begin the conversation where maybe I'm checking her desktop for resources and I'm asking her to do a room scan and show me her ID. But while I'm onboarding Claire, I can still watch Eric, who I've already let into his exam. So it is feasible for a proctor to have students in multiple places in the onboarding and testing process because you can continue to monitor them during the session.
Yeah, and we wanted to share this with you guys because we recognize that you have your own, some of you have your own proctors in your own testing center, but keep in mind, this is FERPA compliant. This is not Zoom, right? And so I don't know how many of you've had to resort to that, but just this would be a parallel service, but certainly, safe, secure, and would absolutely be FERPA compliant. So.
And also, too, we have that AI running in the background to assist you as a proctor so you can more efficiently monitor multiple students. So a multiple face came into Eric's session, it looked like. And then that exam window in focus means that Eric was continually trying to leave that exam and go to somewhere that wasn't authorized. And also, too, even though we're focusing on Eric's annotations, we've still not lost sight of Claire at the bottom who's continuing to test. And then finally, this is something that our hybrid proctors brought to our attention early. We need the ability to remove somebody from a session if something is happening, right? That needs to be changed. This screen is actually showing here where we can this screen is actually showing at the top if a student does something that needs to be documented. Over at the top, they can do that incident report. We can also remind the proctor of what the password is to the exam if they need to help with the password. And then it's also reminding the proctor of what the lockdown options are that were turned on for the student. Sometimes instructors make errors in the lockdown. They may say, I want to lock the student into the exam and not allow new tabs. Well, what if the student needs to do something in an additional tab that was allowed in the exam? So as a hybrid proctor, you can go in and even adjust a lockdown if you need to. And then this next one should show when the student's removed from the exam. If you need to remove a student from an exam because of their behavior, you've got an easy interface to do that with, and you can even put the reason in why that student was eliminated from the exam. So we need to give credit to our hybrid proctors who really launched this process with us, because they gave us great feedback, and the tool is used now, not just externally in institutions, but it's used internally by our live proctors as well.
Sorry.
So one more, go back one more.
Sorry. No, okay. That's the
There we
next
go.
one. Yeah.
And then also too, one more.
Well, that is one more right there.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
We've also got, again, students are becoming pretty sophisticated when it comes to academic integrity violations. We use a Chrome extension for most of our sessions because so many institutions need to work with Chromebooks because that's the devices that students have. But if you need a higher level of academic integrity and some more rigorous courses, for Macs and PCs, we have an additional app that will block students access to some of those devices some of those apps where they tend to try to do remote access, try to screen share from another computer, and also try to record sessions and harvest content. Again, this is for higher stakes courses. And the great news is that you can just deploy this in specific courses and you don't have to use it across your institution, but it's just an extra app that you can add for that extra level of academic integrity when they're testing on Macs and PCs. And then for face-to-face, Smarter Proctoring is really the only proctoring tool that is going to help you integrate face-to-face options into your testing choices. You can incorporate test center scheduling at your own institution. If you don't have the capacity to test your own students, you can expose them to our networks. We have NCTA networks, and then we have some verified individual proctors. So even if you don't have the capacity to offer face-to-face testing, we can help you do that through our network.
I'm curious, Carol, since a majority of you their contacts came from the NCTA conference, I'd love to see a show of hands of how many of you do provide in-person testing for students that are not affiliated with your organization. You know, some schools say, hey, not only can we do that, we charge them, that's a revenue model. But others like, no, we can only, handle our own students. Okay, so I see 4 hands up. I think when I go to view, it's when it pops that window up on the screen that kind of compromise. Oh, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Carol, you can see a window, but you don't see that everybody's participants.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm seeing, okay, great. Yeah, that's good to know because we see it all. And so I was just curious.
And then it's really important too to try to connect the dots back to the LMS. The whole purpose of Smarter Proctoring, the really reason we call it Smarter Proctoring, is we want to give options, but we want to make it a seamless experience for faculty and for students. And so if your proctoring tool is integrated into your LMS, your instructors and your students don't have to set up a separate account on a proctoring site, right? They don't have to go to a separate place. With Smarter Proctoring, the students and the faculty are always inside the LMS. So instructors can configure their exams inside a tool inside the LMS. Students can connect to proctors even with Smarter Proctoring tool inside the LMS. And again, the more times you have to input something, the more mistakes you can make. So by staying into the LMS and outside of those additional programs, it can be a real time saver. So if you are shopping for proctoring solutions, to me, this is one of the most important questions to ask is how integrated is that solution into your LMS? How much time are students and faculty in the LMS versus on a proctoring company platform or additional site?
Oh, I was just about to ask you something. It just slipped my mind. Okay, I'll keep going.
And so for Smarter Proctoring, instructors work off this dashboard, and this is just an overview summary inside the LMS that instructors can see who still has not made arrangement for proctoring, who's scheduled an exam but not taken it, and who's finished their exam. And then once you scroll down a little further in this dashboard, you can see all the recordings of your finished exams. So it's really clear and easy to see inside the LMS.
And of course, we know this is Canvas, but we can't do screenshots for everybody. So we do integrate with all of the LMSs. But
yes. And also too, for students are, if you decide to give a students choices, students can see those choices inside the LMS and they can schedule and kind of shop what their choices are inside the LMS. So for instance, for this school, they're allowing the testing center network. They're running hybrid or remote proctoring from their own testing center. With their proctors, and then they're offering automated proctoring for any student that doesn't want to go face to face. So your institution, if you decided to adopt smarter proctoring, may give students 3 buttons, you may give students 1, or you may give them access to a couple of other modalities through an accommodation. That's one thing we can do for you as well. So again, one-stop place to see all their options clearly within the LMS and to schedule and to connect with those options as well.
You know, I'm curious, Carol, because you've mentioned the scheduler several times, and we do integrate with Register Blast. We have, some of our schools who already use Register Blast, and so we integrate with them, but we also have our own scheduler. So I would love to see, again, a show of virtual hands of how many of you who use Register Blast for your scheduling at your testing center, which again, we would integrate with that, so you would still have that single platform. Lots of hands popping up. Okay.
Yeah. So what if you use Register Blast, when you click on that testing center network button, you instantly are, if it's your institution as opposed to the network, when you click on that button, you're transitioned into your Register Blast schedule. So students can see what appointments are available for online students. It's really easy and seamless. So for Canvas, we have a couple of extra. Okay, go ahead.
Carol, sorry, guys. I was trying to access the Q&A a minute ago just to see if anything popped up. And so either no one's typed anything in, which is fine, or it might not be enabled. So if anyone, any participant, Steve, I'm calling you out, or Angie St. John, just anybody, if you could go and either message me or, say if you can see the Q&A, because I'm unable to access that. And it may be because no one has actually, sorry, stop share. No one has actually typed in a question yet.
Oh, there we go. I see 2 now.
Okay,
got it.
Sorry.
Worked. Thank you.
Can you still hear me? Did I lose internet?
Yep, I can hear you, but I can't see the slides.
Okay, it literally just must. Hold on. Okay, sorry.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, it just
Gotcha. Yeah, it's just try your slide share one more.
Sharing, yeah. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, it didn't want to show. I can quickly get mine going. Hang on. Okay, I got it. Do you want me to share, Julie?
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know exactly.
Okay, you want me to share?
Let me go.
Okay, there we go. That's it. So for Canvas, we have a couple of extra integrations. With Canvas, your exam details automatically sync over to Smarter Proctoring. And also your roster is going to pull over automatically to Smarter Proctoring and your exam details. So just know that if you're a Canvas user, we have some additional benefits that make the experience even easier and even more seamless for instructors. And of course, the long-term goal is to have all the LMSs have these additional features. And that's something that's currently on our development map. But just know if you're a Canvas user, we've got some additional features there that make it more seamless. All right, now I'm going to transfer over to Julie to talk about efficiency a little bit.
Okay, so again, thank you for your patience, guys. And I do see now that a few things have come in the Q&A, but Carol, for whatever reason, I'm not able to view what that is. I can see there's a 3 in the more button, but the Q&A is not popping up for me.
We got a question from Angie. If using Register Blast, will instructors be able to see if a student has scheduled a test within Register Blast? Yes, when they go to exam details for that student, they'll be able to see, they'll show it's scheduled, and they'll be able to see that the appointment has been made with your testing center. So great question.
Yeah, absolutely. And just think about that. That's one component that right now in most schools is separated out with the test center, and we could streamline that into other proctoring modalities. And I know there was 2 more. There may be questions or comments.
Yeah, they were just people testing chat for us.
Perfect. So what we promised you guys is that we would try to give you some concrete things to review, to look at, maybe learn some new things. And I want to remind you, as we go through these sections, please do chime in and say, hey, we haven't done those things, but this is the thing or technology we're using that's working. So scheduling, it's so ironic. We just talked about Register Blast, right? So, for those of you who use Register Blast, it's pretty seamless. It works well, but that is one component, and majority of schools that's not tied into the other proctoring modalities, whether it be automated or live or whatever. Students have to schedule that separately, either in another application or outside the LMS. And so imagine all students being able to go through one platform, which is integrated with the LMS, whatever that might be, and be able to schedule, like Carol showed you with testing center. Yes. Well, I don't have a testing center at my school, but I need to go face to face because I need accommodations. I don't have a webcam maybe at home, or maybe I have a helper or a screen reader. Well, I live 3 states over from my college, so I need to find a local trusted testing center where my school will say, okay, yes, that's a trusted proctor. You can go there. I may have to pay a fee, or it may be free, but I need to go where it makes sense for me demographically. And so we also have a scheduler if you aren't, working with Register Blast, and it works in much the same way. The zip code, you're able to access our NCTA network. We also have a network of professional proctors. That could be anything from a librarian, Notary Republic, business professionals that are doing this on the side. So that, again, expands that live face-to-face network, and without you having to meet that need or doing proctor forms, or, this instructor telling Sally to go get her own proctor and fill it out and see if the person's approved. That person can either hop in our database for free, or they can choose one of ours. And again, this is just a few bullets. I'm not going to read them to you. You can review this later. But in order to streamline operations, scheduling should be very seamless for you. We have some schools that use tools like Google Forms. I mean, that's better than a paper form you have to fill out, or, going back and forth via email or accessing a calendar. But just know that that is one way to really evaluate how you're handling scheduling. And there's some free tools out there that schools with smaller testing centers are able to use because the capacity is a lot lower and they're getting it for free. So make sure you're evaluating what you're using. Student check-ins, storing belongings. So, Carol and I both, many of our team is on the NCTA listserv. There's a plethora of knowledge on there, and a lot of it doesn't necessarily apply to her and I, but it's interesting for us to see what schools, their challenges, what ideas they have. And literally in the past, probably 3 to 6 months, Carol, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the storing of belongings, how to check people in and make that efficient without interrupting the other test takers, has been a little bit of a hot topic. So, and again, I know not every school, oh yeah, we just bought brand new lockers. I get that. But what you can do is some other cost saving measures that may relinquish some budget in order for you to get something like that. There is, I don't know, I don't have a picture of it. I need to send you guys an image. If you've ever seen the the old fashioned, you hang them on the back of your closet door. It's a shoe holder, right? I mean, that was back, I'm showing my age now, but we used to have those, and you would stick your shoes in those when you open your closet. It was a space saver. Well, then fast forward, a hack 10 or 12 years ago, well, put all your kids' Barbie doll clothes and your Barbies in those so they're clear and they can see them. Well, then another hack for that is to use that for individual cell phones. So people can still see their cell phone. It's extremely inexpensive. They can have a tag on there that's theirs, and they can see it, and it's secure. It's in sight, but it's put away. So again, get creative and don't be afraid to, go to TikTok, look for hacks, go to Pinterest and talk to your other fellow test center administrators, because there's some creative ideas going on. And that's obviously a much lower end than a large testing center where you may need those lockers, to secure belongings. What we don't want to do is not have a place for them to go, and then the students say, well, I need to keep it with me, right? That's the whole point. That's where we get permit items that are not permitted. You also can create a QR code. That's super easy to do. You go in there, and when they click that QR code, when students are coming in, it will give them instructions of exactly what to do. Now, this is not the first time they should see these instructions. These instructions should be on their syllabus. They should be on your website, on the testing center, and the announcements in your LMS. If you need to schedule with the testing center, click this QR code, or here's the website. But if they get into the testing center, they should take their phone and be able to get those instructions. So that's going to make that more efficient, make it a little more self-serve and not quite as labor intensive with your HR. So you don't have to give that long drawn out spiel to every single student. And again, not one size fits all, but those are some ideas. Let's see. We know that facial recognition and biometrics our thing, and they're only going to get a little bit bigger and a little bit deeper. So it's up to the schools to kind of determine what's enough and what's too much, right? I know many schools have the facial recognitions as they're walking into their dorm, right, for safety and that sort of thing. But just know that there's lots of different ideas. Self-check-in stations, like a kiosk. You don't have, I know that costs money, but you can do it on a lower scale. And I would encourage you to really think through how you're doing some things and what you can improve on that. And then managing that proctor network and those approval forms. I cannot tell you, and Carol, chime in. I mean, how many times we have a school inquire, hey, we're interested in your proctoring. And so the first thing we do is go look on your website. We want to know, do you have a testing center? Do you have like if you need a proctor, click on this form, print it, write it out, or do you have to go to your instructor? Then your instructor goes to the testing center. A lot of back and forth. How is all that documented? That's something we really want to know, because we absolutely can streamline that for you and do it in a way that's going to save a lot of time, energy, and effort. And in doing so, that's going to, relieve those dollars that can be applied elsewhere. It's going to, cut down on confusion, frustration, and it's going to be much more seamless process. I don't know, Carol, anything about that? You know what I'm talking about.
Just the proctor forms is definitely a level where we can, like you said, increase efficiency. Because many of you have proctors that you've used in the past that are vetted. You can have them sign up for our system, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, and really make that process more efficient for everybody.
100%. Yeah. And so, again, enhancing security and efficiency. So security is one thing and efficiency is a different one, but sometimes we can combine the two. So the signing in process, can you have your students, when I go to Walmart to pick up my groceries or when I go to return something, they literally say, are you on your way? Yes, they can track my car, pull in, tell me you're in bin number 2, and we will meet you out there. I'm not naive. I know most schools are not going to have that type of technology, but there's certainly an option. For example, when I go to the doctor, hey, go ahead and check in, an hour ahead of time so that you can have your paperwork done. So when you get here, all that's taken care of. So don't let that intimidate you. Just be on the lookout for Google search and look at the NCTA listserv. Share your ideas and dig around for other ideas, because there are ways that you can automate that a little bit more without being extremely high tech, and it's going to increase those efficiencies and ultimately minimize those student frustrations, because we know what that turns out to be, right? I'm curious about your security and privacy policies. So again, working with all different types of schools, yes, there's the honor code. Some schools have a mandate. Every student, if they're in particular online courses, they must have at least 2 proctored exams per semester. But the majority of schools that we talk with are, I hate to say the wild, wild west, but essentially the school might have 1 to 2 to 3 different vendors that provide different variations of proctoring modalities. They generally have a testing center, and maybe they have a testing center network. Maybe, like, for example, Utah State University is coming to my mind. They have probably maybe 15 different testing centers that are in their network. But that is a way that, again, we streamline that and expand that network. So those are the kinds of things to be thinking about on your policies. And all schools are different. In a lot of cases, the departments, the colleges within the universities, they get to choose. It may even come down to the faculty member, whether they want to proctor everything or nothing or somewhere in between, right? So do those need reviewing? What the privacy policies, obviously with the lawsuit, right? As Carol shared, it was based on the privacy. It wasn't because his privacy was invaded. It was because he was forced to do a ring scan, and that was the only proctoring option he was given. If they could have said, hey, you can go to, an on-site testing center, or you can do this, it would not have been ruled in his favor, but that was the only option. So again, it goes back to, we've got to give student choices, whether it's because they don't have the equipment, maybe they have test anxiety, or they do truly need an accommodation. Are these policy and these privacy and security policies clear and consistent? And that sounds so elementary, but what we've seen in working with schools is you will have the privacy policy in one location. You maybe have in the syllabus or in the course requirements a little bit of a different verbiage. And then when you go to proctoring technologies, maybe you have 3 different vendors, their privacy statement is is just a little bit different each time. So that can create a lot of confusion. So I would encourage you to review all that. And if it's not just up to you, get the parties to be, just say, hey, let's round robin this and make sure we are up to date. But most importantly, it's all consistent across the board for students to protect you and them. We've talked a little bit about securely storing the students' belongings. I mentioned that I couldn't remember where I put it in the slide deck, but the clear door hanging shoe bag, I'm going to die on that hill. And so some of the other talk we've heard about is how to minimize distractions. If you have a small testing center and you have maybe 10 people and they're all taking an exam and maybe 2 chairs that are empty and you have someone, they're coming to check in. You need to ask them who they are, get their ID, make sure it matches, go through the system, make sure they've scheduled the right time. Maybe they will fee, maybe they don't. That's a lot of chatter when you're trying to accommodate these students in the testing center who, don't want to be interrupted. And we want to minimize that and to try to ease their stress. So noise canceling headphones, I've seen a lot of schools talk about that. And again, I don't know logistics of, how, if you clean them with alcohol wipes, or if you tell somebody they can bring their own, but don't be afraid of that type of thing. That could be very important. And maybe perhaps your school, if a student requires those, they may have to have a letter, an ADA letter. I don't know. I would love to, by all means, anybody who has feedback on that has ever used those, because you might say you can bring your own, but then what if they're not noise canceling? What if they're like, some kind of spy device, right? So we can't be the police all the time. So I would love to hear if you share that input, because we can share it with everyone else. I've also heard a lot of chatter about the white noise machine. And so I thought, for me, that would be very helpful while I'm testing, because the ADD is off the charts. But some people, if they're not used to that, like if you're sleeping with a fan, everybody I know sleeps with a fan, they're not going to go to sleep unless they have their fan. But if you don't sleep with the fan and you turn it on one night, it could impede your sleep, right? Your restful sleep. So I think this is the same idea. You don't have to buy multiple white noise machines. These days you can have an app. Maybe you have it over the speakers, or maybe you have 2 different rooms in your testing center. And one of those you have the white noise on, or whatever, the ocean, and then the other one you do not. I hadn't even thought about that until just now. I don't know how realistic that is. I've only been in a handful of testing centers, but I know some of them have separate areas. So certainly something to think about. Again, Carol, anything popping up in Q&A, guys, please share your ideas here for those of you who have something that you would like to share and we would share with the group.
And we know that in some of your centers, this would be a good place for everybody to raise hands. Raise your hand for us if your testing center is responsible for generating revenue for your institution. This is something we're really interested in. So could you give me a hand raise if your testing center is expected to build revenue for your institution? If you would raise your hand, that would be just great to know, because I know that some of you, in addition to servicing your students, are also, concerned about bringing in revenue as a testing center.
I like the way you said that, Carol, if you're responsible for bringing in revenue, right? It's one thing to come up with ideas to show how you can make your test center more profitable. It's another if you're expected to, what are you doing to bring in revenue, right? And I know some of it's just a wash, but only a couple of hands came up, Carol, in our big group. So that's interesting.
Well, and if you're not currently focused on revenue generating, but you would like to generate revenue because potentially you could use it for other resources or for additional staff, we just wanted to throw some ideas out there for you to build revenue. Most importantly, something you may not have been aware of is when we mentioned that we have that Smarter Proctoring network, where that's something that you're eligible to join, right? And that just joining the Smarter Proctoring network would mean that, hey, that you have days that not all your seats are filled, right? And that if a student wanted to test that day from another institution, you may likely could accommodate them. With Smarter Proctoring Network, you can sign up to join the network. You tell us what your hours are and the fees that you want to charge for testing. And then when students need to take an exam close to them, they can see what testing centers are available. They can view their choices. We can even turn on your register blast scheduling so they could schedule with you live and even collect the payment for their appointment. So again, it's just a way for you to build revenue, right? And for you to be able to utilize a lower capacity day, or also really just to help more students in your area, because again, it benefits all our communities when we have students obtain degrees and certificates, right? So after the call, we'll send you a resource to learn more about how to join the network. It's a really easy thing to do, and it's a way to bring in revenue for your team. And then for
Carol, I just
profitability,
now looked at the time. I've not been, normally we keep good track of it. I haven't. So I just wanted to call your attention to that too. So we can, and again, we're going to
yeah,
share the data.
we're almost done. We'll speed it up. But I'm just putting here some basically any exams that you're not currently delivering. I just wanted to put some out there for you to maybe give you idea starters if you wanted to offer these for your testing student population. Again, you can see project management certifications, educational certifications. Again, we're going to send you the slide deck so you can explore some of these additional exams that you may want to consider adding to your testing center. The one suggestion that I wanted to make here is that I found from a testing center manager was to be careful when you're negotiating your contracts with these providers. I had a testing center manager report back in an article that said when they negotiated their contract, they didn't pay close attention to the term. And the term on what the vendor was paying them was like a 7-year contract. And they felt like that really they weren't getting a fair fee for that assessment because their contract was too long term. So when you're accepting these types of exams, just be careful when you're negotiating your contract and don't set it for a term that's so long that your prices are locked in that you're not protecting yourself from inflation. And so again, just more ideas here for assessments that you may not be giving. And then Julie, this is yours.
Yep. So I'm going to run through it really quick, but we decided to start with, end with the future. So some of the things we know that's going to keep happening, we've looked at the trends, and Carol and I have both researched these. We know that AI is going to continue to evolve. It is moving fast. There's going to be a continued demand. We've seen it for the lowest, cheapest, budget-friendly option of proctoring. As long as schools are having to pay for this fee, for students, they cannot afford $15 to $20 for live online proctoring. So we've got to maintain this AI that's the lowest deterrent, but it's also the most budget friendly. We know that the efficiencies on flagging will continue to get better. And that's, it's going to be more automated, right? Yeah, it's going to get better. But I have to address this, and I hope you guys are still with me. I have to address that point. Continued confusion on flagging or anomaly detection and false positives. If we tell the computer, and again, I don't want to insult anybody, but we hear this so often. If we are telling the computer to flag for multiple faces, every time there's more than one face in that camera, it's going to flag it. And so if I'm a young mom, an old mom, and I'm taking an exam and my child runs into the room and comes in view of the camera, and I'm like, I told you to leave me alone, I'm taking a test, and the child runs out, that will be a flag. Was that a cheating incident? I would say 99.9% it was not. But that's not a false positive. That's the software doing exactly what we're telling it to do. So sometimes people get that idea in their mind of, well, why can't it determine that? Well, that's not what it's designed to do. So it's designed to flag what you tell it to flag. The other thing is a missing face. If you allow your students a 3x5 index card, and we verified, yes, they have the notes, that's all they're allowed to do, and they continue to look down at their notes, and face disappears from the webcam.
Hey, you just disappeared. That was perfect.
That is a missing face. That is not a false positive. So that is really where the review comes in. Like Carol said, yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but faculty get so aggravated because they say there's so many false positives. There really isn't. It's flagging exactly what we told it to. What they're considering a false positive is, well, they were just looking down at their note card. That's not a cheating incident. That's not what we said. We flagged it, but when we review it, we're able to have some of that, we have the proctor notes. We know if they were allowed to use that index card. We see that it's just a kid. We can remove those flags, clean them up. And then if there's something that's, I'm looking at my phone and it continues to happen, that's obviously, needs to have an incident report filed. And so I just, beg of you as we try to educate all, everyone, is that be careful about the word false positives. People get aggravated with them, but that is where you either have to have a thorough understanding of what you're doing or go ahead and pass it along to us to review. Let's see. Privacy protections. There's higher standards. Schools are saying you got the HECVAC, you got the VPAT, now do you have the SOC 2? That is the standard. That's going to continue to go up. Student concerns are going to continue to be there, partly because of their false presumptions. Literally, they think, sometimes I think after the proctoring exams open, that we, like Julie Myers and Carol Moody at SmarterServices, are spying on them. And I'm being a little bit silly, but it comes down to that. So we have got to work and educate students on their concerns and remedy those myths or those false presumptions about the data we're collecting. We know there's still going to be continued lawsuits, so we all, as schools and as an organization and partners, will work together to make sure that you're covered. Personalizing the proctoring process. We have to do it, guys. We have to. This is all Carol and I've been talking about. Choice, choice, choice. And I don't mean choice with vendor number 1 for lockdown, choice vendor number 2 for live online, choice number 3, vendor number 3 for automated. And then the 4th option is test center scheduling. That is very confusing. It's not consistent. It's frustrating. You've got 3 different support departments. Who goes? Who's on first? So accessibility and inclusion, we know that is continuing to grow. That's not going to go away. That's going to continue to even, get bigger. We're going to have to customize the student needs. And so there's to meet budget. What does that mean? I'm a student and I don't have a laptop with a webcam and I cannot afford one. And my school doesn't have a Chromebook for me to use or to rent out. So I don't have the budget to provide a device. So I'm going to have to go into the testing center or find, a cheaper option. Work family schedules. I don't care if you're married and married with a family, or if you're 18 years old. We've got obligations to our work and our family schedules. We have to be flexible, provide options to our students, and not just pigeonhole them. You can only test in this window and make it we've got to provide options. Equipment requirement. That again, budget is part of it, but also equipment requirement. If I just can't afford, or I have a computer and it's an old one, maybe that, my mom's work gave me and we couldn't afford one, but it doesn't have a webcam and I can't afford a webcam. Well, I can't do this online proctoring. I have to be face-to-face. Accessibility concerns. We need to personalize the proctoring process. And the way we do that with a single vendor, a single platform through the LMS that faculty and students can rely on and have insight to all the proctoring tasks that are going on. The LMS integration, we all have that, but there's so many more. There's new apps, there's third-party providers. It's growing, growing, growing. It's got to be a seamless experience. So we're trying to stay on top of our integration to make sure that there's not a lot of one-offs or caveats, right? That single point of entry through the LMS is what it needs to be for all students. We provide that with Smarter Proctoring. Identity verification, it's here to stay. Y'all know that. There's going to be more sophisticated options. We have some schools that literally want facial recognition when they walk on campus. We have other schools that are afraid to even ask them, to verify, hold up a school ID, and everything in between. It just runs the gamut of what schools expect and what students are willing to give. So striking a balance between what's enough and versus too much, that's going to continue to be a thing. We know the biometrics is only going to get cheaper and more sophisticated with more options. Keystroke dynamics is a good one that we don't hear as much about, but it's a little bit more low stakes. We know that the landscape of proctoring providers, in other words, i.e. competitors, continues to grow. Part of my job and Carol's job is to be aware of our competition, and it seems like every other week another provider pops up. So we're like, what are they doing good? What are they not doing good? And what should we be concerned about? And ultimately, that specialized exams, like all the, the ACT, the TEAS, the Accuplacer, the certifications, real estate, that with licensures versus the traditional higher ed exams, Psychology 101, Statistics 101, whether it's online, face-to-face, or made up having to be like a makeup test in the testing center if they're face-to-face and they cannot make it to class. That is going to continue to be a divide, and it's going to be interesting to see how that continues to grow. Consider this is nothing more than, I linked a few things. So I would love to see a show of hands. And we've got most everybody still here. We've got a great crowd still. I'll try to just wrap it up in 5 minutes. Raise your hand if you've heard about, well, 2 things. The first thing is you can use your iPhone as a hearing aid. The second thing is how to use your AirPods as hearing aids. This link right here, it came out this month, and it shows how you can use those or convert those. Okay, I see hands, yeah, they're coming up. So you've heard, yeah, it's just something that, listen, as test center administrators, as in our role, we want to be adept to this. We have live proctors, and when we say, okay, let me check your ears for earbuds, no hat, no glasses, all the things. But what about the hidden camera spy glasses? The glasses. What about those? Well, how do we know? I mean, it's really, really tricky. And then I think about people who walk into the center. Some of the stuff is, I'm telling you, it looks really legit. So we do have to do our due diligence and do our part to be in front of the technologies, because y'all, if kids want to cheat, adults, they're going to cheat. We know that. We can't put a stop to it. Our job is to partner with you to create a deterrent, to help keep the honest ones honest, and to monitor the small percentage that is really all in the cheating and being going all in. A few more things, I'm not even going to, but I would encourage, Google search, go to Reddit. I'm telling you, these students will bare their souls. Carol knows that her and I both had college students in the past several years, our children, and some of the stuff you find out, they will unload. Have, one of your staff or once a month, Google and see what you can find. That's going to help you stay on top of things. Communicate with faculty quarterly. I know they don't want another meeting. Find out what have they been seeing versus what you have been seeing. Because if you don't communicate, you don't learn from each other. And I can promise you there's information to be had. So creating your masterpiece. This is the blueprint. We want to have you, your design studio to be open. So this is not just a bulleted list of all the things we just regurgitated. This is, hey, if I walk away from this webinar, what do I do? Do I just watch this recording again? No, these are some concrete things. And I try to do things that are low to no budget, that are not extremely time intensive. Because listen, again, we know testing centers, we've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of times there's one of you wearing many hats. You have limited, HR, and you have limited funds. And so, but I still want you to feel empowered. We want you to feel empowered to have the best test center you can have. So for example, identify opportunities to improve profitability. This is not necessarily just how you can make more money. This is how you can improve profitability. So review the technologies that your center is using. How much does it cost? What are the features? We're doing that as a company right now. We do it every couple of years. Why are we paying the same, for two technologies that kind of do the same thing? We need to ditch one. That can happen right over time. When you have those budget items and they get paid for and you're like, wow, we hadn't touched that in a year. What are we doing? Take, a little bit of time, review that. That's going to increase your profitability, and ultimately it may remedy, release funds to go to something that really does matter to you. There's so many free tools. Y'all know this, especially for small schools. There's so many free tools. Take advantage of them. Get on the NCTA listserv. I know somebody recently was talking about a scheduler. I think it was, Carol, what wasn't, I know Calendly. It was a Carlander. It was sort of a knockoff name from Calendly. And it was like a scheduling service, but this is such a small testing center that it's not helpful for them to pay register blast. They don't need our system. They needed such a small scale thing. And there are resources, free resources. I'll find the name of that out and link it. But again, I found out about skimming through the NCTA listserv. Another way you could improve profitability, even if your school can't take on more exams. Create a buyout program for your older devices. I know a lot of people these days, they want the latest and greatest, but let me tell you something. For a young college student that cannot afford any type of device, they're happy to get something that can get internet, right? And so perhaps you have a program already. Maybe it's a donation program, which, that's wonderful, but create a buyout program. Don't be afraid to go to, the powers that be and just say, hey, we've got a creative idea. We want to make, 20% back on this device. And then eventually we'll get a pull so we can purchase lockers or we can purchase, new equipment. And I cannot stress this enough. Do your own inventory. Do your own inventory. I cannot tell you, I worked at a university before this job, 18 years ago for 7 years. I can't tell you how many times we would go in our supply closet in my office and we would have way too many Post-it notes, way too many, I'm showing my age now, pens or the legal pads, but that's how it happens. You have your school-wide, inventory so that all the computers are marked with the SKU and all the chairs, but get into your closets. Look what you have. How many chargers do you have? Which ones work? Which ones don't? This is not that time consuming. It takes a little bit of time, but that's going to help in the long run to make sure that, hey, I've got my list and I marked off 4 things because we have 3 of those and I didn't even know it, or I found a bunch of stuff in an old box in the corner, right? So don't miss that opportunity. And I've got some more things on here. Talk to your students, create a suggestion box. I know that's old fashioned way, but how else are you going to learn? Write what your students want you to know. And then whenever you see recurring problems, recurring issues, take the top 3 and figure out a way to change those. You don't have to fix it all in one day, but don't keep having the same question or the same problem, frustration with students or equipment over and over and over and not address it in a way that can be, whether it's through instructions, whether it's through education of the students, et cetera. This is our last slide. I didn't realize that. I'm going to go back to, we just wanted to brag about some of the people we serve. So we have a great network of clients. I am going to hop back over to here. And so Carol, y'all, please just questions, comments. Has anybody typed in anything that they use that they've had?
No, we just had a request to make sure that we send the recording, so we're definitely going to do
sure.
that. So, and then we're going to
Oh.
send the recording, and there's also going to be some resources from us.
Yeah.
One of the resources is about how to join the Smarter Proctoring Network if you'd like to advertise your availability. There's another one about how Smarter Proctoring can impact your testing center. And then I believe another resource about, our other platforms that we offer for proctoring, the live, the automated, and the record and review, if you wanted to compare those. And then Julie, I'll let you wrap us up because we're over the top of the hour.
Yeah, perfect. Well, you're going to receive that follow-up email. And in that, if you said, you know what, I have some questions that are applicable to my institution, I would love to have a one-on-one conversation. This is not a demo. This is obligation free. This is Carol and I saying, her or I, whichever, wherever your location is, we would love the opportunity to schedule a 15-minute phone call with you to discuss what you think about the webinar. Was it helpful? Do you have any additional ideas we can add for next time? And what are your proctoring needs that are being met? What is not being met? And see if there's something we can do to help you. And if not, we're still going to send you free resources because we do believe in supporting our demographic and our market, even if they aren't necessarily choosing us to be their provider. So thank you so much, everybody, for your time and attention. And we will be in touch very soon.